Hello, everybody. It's a good turn-up today, even though it's Thursday today, I think. I'll host or moderate this panel, so I'll try to speak as little as possible and let the professionals here do the talking. I have a label I'll just introduce myself quickly. Since 1989, who releases punk rock, garage, and electronic stuff. Also the vice chair on the board of the trade organization SOM, which is all the Swedish independent, not all, but most of the independent labels in Sweden. And we're going to discuss a little bit how the indie markets or your labels are in the different countries and how you work. But first, maybe an introduction from here to there.
My name is Hugo Scherman. I run a label in Sweden called Smuggler Music.
And I'm Lena Graf. I have an independent label called GMR Music, and I focus on metal and hard rock music.
Joose Bel, Stupido Records and booking Helsinki, Finland.
And my name is Christian. I'm here as a delegate, I guess I can say, from Forno, Zoom's sister organization in Norway. I run a label called Fysisk Format and a record store distribution service.
And I'm Jacob. I'm leading the Danish independent The Bank, which is a full service. We have publishing, management, label, and booking.
Thank you. We have maybe some knowledge about the countries themselves, but how is it with your trade organizations? Here you are also, I would say, you were so polite, you didn't mention you're also on the board of SOM. We have, I think, 300 plus, I don't know the exact, members from the bigger playgrounds to even down to the smaller, like myself, one-man operations. How is it in Finland? Do you know how many members you have in the organization, Indico?
Well, I would say that we have some 80 members. If I'm not correct, if there are any Finns in the audience, I can't see anything. I can't see you. You're in the darkness, so I'm talking to the wall, basically. But yeah, I would say we have some 80 members, so quite a few of them being like one-man operations. We are, I would say one of the biggest indies in Finland. We have been running this label since 1989, so it's been a few years.
And Denmark, do you know then?
I'm pretty new in Dub, but maybe some of my friends from Denmark knows, because you guys are on the board. How many?
250.
Thank you, Kasper. 250 members.
And Norway?
Yeah, in the previous talk we were discussing quality versus quantity. So we're about 160, 170 labels, but the quality varies. And I think one of the qualities as a label would be to be a fresh new upstart with a positive view on the future. And that's a quality that we don't have too much of, but we have some. We're a aging group, I think.
Yeah, we are also old. But how do you see your I'll just ask country by country maybe. How is your, is there still streaming and of course is it still physical, a lot of the indie market in products? I'm looking at you again here since
well, I'm very biased as I run a record store myself, and I started a record label in 2008 called Fysisk Format, which was established as a reaction to the coming digitalization and how I saw that would change the music. So I've been very focused on not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not sure if that's an English expression, but I hope it's a Nordic expression at least, because that's something that, because of our ugly, rich country, in a way, we have been able to throw out the CD players the day that Spotify launched, because everybody had, of course, bought the new iPhone and the new stereo systems. So we had the money to change the music formats really quick. But for me, it was important to keep as much as possible of the old formats. I love all the formats. I'm not a vinyl nerd. I love cassettes and CDs and everything, because I think each format is changing the music in a way, good and bad, and that includes digital. Digital has some good, excellent advantages, and that's why it's become the main format. But for me, it's important to to prolong the life of the physical formats as long as we can, as long as they have some benefits.
Yeah.
I would say our label is, you could say, quite mainstream, or we have a lot of different acts, both hip-hop and rock and alternative and electronic, but also pop music. And for us, actually, physical, I think, is growing. We have a lot of record stores, but for us, the most important thing on the physical side is actually, that's the way to recoup our investment fast, because the streaming is really long-term. So we are really, really active in selling records at the venues, because it's also sometimes pretty slow through the record stores. Of course, you also... of course you also earn less than if you are there by yourself. And we also try to sell directly to consumer through newsletters. Actually, newsletters sounds really boring, really old. But it's funny to see how music newsletters from bands, people really react to them. So it's not coming from us, it's coming... So we help the acts establish newsletters for themselves, both to sell live tickets, but also merchandise and especially vinyl. But on a lot of our stuff, it is the vinyl who saves the budget the first 1 or 2 years.
Okay, here in Sweden, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, personally, for my label, I still sell a lot of physical product, but I think it's probably genre-based. As I sell hard rock and metal, it's a lot of physical product still. But I guess if you're mainstream, it's, as you say, it's a lot of digital. But for me, my main income is from the physical, and that's what I focus on my label. Both direct to consumer, through mail order, and through distribution services. So, Smuggler.
You're a young man, so
yes.
How do you?
Much younger.
Yeah, and I think it's if you see it from a label perspective and what you say, like starting a new label, I think it's difficult because the physical format, you need a lot of investment, and you need to have a capital, and if you're manufacturing a couple of thousand vinyls, you have your money in a physical product, and then you need to sell it, and that makes it hard for a new label to invest that kind of money. So I think but as you say, it's really important, and it's an income stream for the do-it-yourself artist and for a small label, because the return of the investment goes quicker than on the digital side. But I think there's a lot of problems with the digital format and with the distribution channel and the complexity of getting the records out to record store, and it's expensive, and that's why the digital format is helping a lot. But for us, we're not genre based, but we're doing music that is maybe a little left of center, and I would say it's most a digital format that brings in the money, but in certain genres, like we have Tonbruket, for example, is doing jazz and have an audience throughout the entire world, then of course we get the money back quicker. But you win some, you lose some.
Joose.
Okay, I'm the black sheep here, as we make the most of our money out of bookings, really. But as I said, we have been running the label for 35 years. It started with vinyl, and I suppose that it will go to the grave with vinyl, I would guess. So for us, in Finland, generally speaking, streaming is the most important. Obviously, if we're talking about recorded music, for majors, they don't really care about any physical formats. For them, it's only peanuts, and that's why we have such labels as Great Swat Records in Finland, who does a lot of releases also of old stuff, which doesn't interest the original rights owners because it's not enough money for majors anyway. But yeah, vinyl boom is still on. We do have a vinyl store in Helsinki as well. CD is quite dead, and tapes are mostly for do-it-yourself people. They are not money-wise so important.
Okay, that's you brought up the live or the management part there. Here in Sweden, the musicians' unions has raised the what do you call it? The level that you are recommended or forced to pay for live artists, and if you want to get government funding for having artists on the road, you have to follow that quite high number, which in some circles, specifically maybe rock bands, see as a threat. If you cannot get that funding, it's much harder to get the bands on the road, and like you say, you buy or sell the records quite often at gigs. So do you see any problems in the live scene in Denmark, for instance?
Yes, I think, like in most countries, we have some problems with smaller, medium-sized bands. I think some of them have experienced problems after the pandemic. The big acts are really growing. It's kind of like there's a development that live music is becoming really showbiz, really big arenas. You know, there's been a wave in Denmark. We also been part of that, trying to move, taking chances, moving into bigger venues than you would think acts could play at. And some of it has turned out great, some of it not that great. The result has been that now some of the smaller venues, they are complaining because the artists they build up, they are leaving them for the Royal Arena stage, 15,000 people, as soon as they can, even though only maybe 3,000 or 4,000 turns up. So there's a debate around that, if the big acts come back and pay back tribute to the places that actually made them where they are today.
And are you using live music, for instance, Hugo, as promotion tools, like touring bands?
I mean, again, it's genre-based, I would say, and I mean, again, for a jazz band, it's obvious. It's it's important for us that they get out and meet the audience. I think it's like an ecosystem in that sense, that you need your band to be active. And one part of that is playing live, meeting an audience. So you also can take that information and show platforms and digital distributors that the band is actually trying and working and building an audience, and not just asking digital platforms to put them in their playlists and push their music. So for us as a label, it's important for us to push our bands to be active, and playing live is one part of that.
And then we come maybe to the question of promotion. How is it with press, for instance, in Norway? Is it obsolete? Is it like old school things, or do you still have media? Like, can you get radio plays, or is it up to the artists or labels themselves to do it online with social media and other channels of promotion?
Luckily, we have a minimum of press still active, but the number of releases that is being written or talked about has diminished. Even the state-funded national radio doesn't really have any room for niche music, which is really strange. It feels like they have the pressure to act as they were commercialized, even if they're state-funded. So they're not really doing the best of their situation, I think. So generally, I think there's a lot of frustration about the Norwegian press, by the people who remembered how it was before. Kids today, I don't think they see it as relevant or important in any way, and that says something about how the media habits are changing. So I think the older people like me could see the press as this important, fantastic, almost holy thing that we should take care of and carry on. But I think there's going to be new ways of expression and new ways of filtering what's important and not. And so I think we're seeing the beautiful dying stage of the Norwegian press right now.
Okay, that sounds
the sunset
promising.
is beautiful. Enjoy it.
Yeah, and Joose, I enjoy Radio Helsinki when I'm in Helsingfors, and as I understand it, that's it's sponsored or run by the Musicians Union. Is that the right interpretation of it?
Well, I would say that is the unlucky situation. I don't really think that musicians' unions should be involved in running radio stations, or why don't they stick to what they are supposed to be doing? And talking about that, I just go a little bit back to what you just said. Did I hear right? The government here in Sweden tells how much you have to pay bands. Otherwise, they don't get government funding. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's a klausul. If you want something called turné. It used to be turnestöd, projektstöd. Now I think from Kulturrådet there is a level, and they say what the union is recommending should be the rate that is paid for musicians on tour, which is...
I'm not in the Sex Pistols, but now I would like to say, what a load of bollocks. I mean, incredible. I mean, give us support. Give support to the venues. You can support bands, give them funding or whatever, but don't come to tell us how much bands should be paid. That's something, what is it called? Socialism?
It's called repressive socialism, and it works very well with commercialism.
Yeah, a bit counterproductive, I would say. How is it in Denmark? Do you have any phonogramstöd or other funding for independent record production?
Yes, there is a bit. We have a lot of the big political fight in Denmark is always in CODA, where we have cultural funds where you can seek money to your records and promotion. And I think CODA has professionalized over the last year, so we come from a system where they gave away really small amounts to almost all members. And during the last 10 years, they've changed that. So now they give a bit more to fewer members, which makes the yearly meetings at CODA really, really exciting to go to, because people are really yelling at each other, and it's not the nicest place to be. I go there for entertainment, to be really. But so that's a big change, and then we have transport support for live touring, and there's also some commercial partners like breweries and stuff like that who are kind of using it as sponsorships. You know, they have rented some cars that you can use as new bands, so you can go to Tuborg and ask them to use their van, and then you put something on your socials and stuff like that. So I would guess some people still think it's not good in Denmark. My feeling is, also been working a bit in Sweden, that is compared to Swedish live scene for newcomers, it's paradise. That would be my feeling.
How do you see the Swedish funding? Would you like to have any other support for when you are a label and produce music?
From a personal perspective, I think the funding is quite weird, because I think there's a situation where you need funding, but we don't have that system where, like, you're going on a big tour and we need money now, and it's much harder, and it doesn't really work that way. And it's the same with the funding for making records. I think it's good to be able to support a diversity of music, but I think the last couple of years it's also been in some ways important to show that you support music that works. So it's going that way, that people who doesn't really need money get money, and the people that struggles a lot doesn't get the funding.
Yes.
I think the time is right now to rethink the funding part, and we should start by not calling it funding, but some kind of payback, because I think it's only natural that you start counting the ringvirkningar. What's that in English? The effects, the secondary and tertiary effects of music. Actually, we've done a study on that in Norway, seeing how black metal, for instance, is supporting the cruise ship industry. And that's a kind of view that I think we should have more of, that the culture is bringing people to the city. I heard that Linköping is having a lot of people coming to check out where the band Ghost did their press photos. So I think that's a major contribution to other businesses and to the general welfare in the country. So I think we should try to quantify that, and I don't know if it contributes 20%, 25% to the overall country economy. That's the kind of money that we should give as a payback, not support, but thank you for contributing, and then share it.
I agree, and I can add, just like supporting the subgenres that after a while becomes the major music genres, like hip hop in Sweden, for example. Like in the beginning of 80s, 90s, were nothing to be discussed, and then it rise up and become the leading genre. And it's the same with electronic dance music. It was just yelled upon, and it was just articles about the drug use, and then we have Avicii a couple of years later bringing a lot of money into the system. So agree that. Yeah.
I think we should hire gardeners to look at the funding system, because they know that you need to fertilize the next crop, the next seeds that you want to grow up. If you can go out and look at, okay, what's the most beautiful bush or flower we have in the garden today, and let's put lots of fertilizing on that, it's going to kill that flower. And it's the same with culture, I'd say.
We had some thought over there.
maybe I kind of disagree a bit, but that's out of again a country where we tried that, and I'm not against supporting, but in Denmark we have a lot of supports for regional concert halls, and it's gonna be especially men in my age sitting there booking new music or stand-up comedians, and the places are completely dead. So I think one of the big problems we have, especially from the indie scene, is to get young people on board. And so if we put in money, which I'm not against, but it's really important that in especially smaller cities that you get young people to drive the scenes and not people plus 40. Because I think some of the indie scene's problems is that what I see, and also some of the problems we have as a label, is still that a lot of the young people in Denmark, they really would like to get the advance, buy the car, and be signed by a major. And sometimes I quite understand them because there's not room for them. There's not, the environment that they can grow in. So I support it, but I think we really need to think about how we do it.
Yeah, I think a way of going into it is to look at how alcohol is running the music industry. There's probably lots of bosses here that think that I'm running the music industry, but you're not. It's alcohol, and a way of changing that, I'd say, is to give people who needs to drink alcohol, like me, a little box for themselves, and then do it mainly for everybody else, especially for the kids, for younger kids. I had inspiring talks here with Fredrik from Star Trek, talking about the early days of Refused in Umeå. And it's very easy to glorify the past, but I think a big part of that was that they found it only natural that if you're a kid, you're in an impressionable age, you're thirsty for new meetings, meeting other people, you're thirsty for music, and you're crazy about going to gigs, so that you could build a band in a really small remote city with a fantastically big audience that were so excited. They had the time of their lives, compared to in Oslo, you have people like us in this sofa, and we're all jaded, and we're all kind of tired, and we all want to go home, and we have too much work to do. That's a big difference, and it's all a question about alcohol. Do you want thousands of screaming kids without alcohol, or would you have the grumpy dudes and sell alcohol?
Yeah, that comes to the question: is the record label, specifically indie, maybe going to be obsolete? Joose, can the artist do themselves all the things that you or you other guys do as a label? You think that it's going to be the future, that there are no labels, only artists doing the stuff themselves?
Well, if some artist wants to take my workload, please do it. I mean, it's not that easy as you might think it is. Yeah. And besides, if you want to be a successful artist, maybe you should at least at some point concentrate what you are doing as an artist. I've been seeing during these years in music business, I've been seeing too many artists who think that they are good managers, they are bookers, they are good this and that, and in fact they are not. I don't really believe that every musician is Leonardo da Vinci from beginning. So my answer will be that labels and agents will be still needed. Of course, the industry is changing all the time, blah blah blah. But that's only a healthy thing.
We're starting to run not low on time, but I'm just opening up. You have experts here. Anyone having any questions about doing label work or starting a label, or no one? Okay. Then we go a little bit maybe more on the different markets when we come to, we speak in English here, but how we're all very small markets. How would you see it? We discussed this in a meeting yesterday on working more of like a bigger market. Everyone wants to go to Germany. We thought about that. At least the bands I work with always want to go to Germany. But we have all these countries that are sort of similar, and we got the Baltic countries too. How would you see that? Is that like a possibility to work on a smaller area than the whole of Europe, where there is a big competition about stages and other? Any thoughts on that?
Well, at least for us, the local market is the most important one anyway. All these export things are little nice extras, but it doesn't help in paying the monthly wages.
How do you see it? Do you work much with export with the bands?
We did some before Corona. It's been really difficult, as probably all of you know, that all the charts, a lot of the music is becoming really local and also local language. So it makes it a bit harder, especially in the pop scene right now. So I also feel that the demand from German labels or whatever, it's kind of, when I spoke to some of them after the pandemic, maybe my music was really bad, but they seemed really not interested. It's so hard for them to get it through. But for me, Germany is still really interesting. I also tried. We had some success before Corona with on radio in Germany, and I must just say, money-wise, it's of course it's such a big country. And I think from the Danish music industry perspective, we have a lot more to gain in Germany. And I also, in the 30 years I've been around in the business, it is, to be honest, to go to Sweden, it's the most difficult. You know, it's UK and Sweden would probably be the two countries I would say is the most difficult to break through in. And I tried a couple of times with really big hits in Denmark, and nobody really seemed to care. And I also feel, maybe I'm wrong, and now I'm talking in the mainstream, not in metal or something like that. So, but in mainstream, I also feel that the live scene in Sweden is really hard. Where Norway historically has been much easier for Danish acts. So I think there's much more to do in Norway than we are doing. But I think, again, as was said before, the local market is really important. You can't do it. It's so expensive and it takes so much time to do it properly outside your own country. So there really needs to be a really good plan and an act that you know is not telling you after 1 year, oh, is it this hard to work outside? I just stop here, and then you don't get your investment back, which happens a lot with Danish acts.
In Swedish, in my mind, sometimes it feels like Swedish artists maybe is easier to book in other countries than the other way around to get. Do you have any experience on export work with your labels?
I do quite a lot of export in my genre all over the world, and it's been working pretty well. But it's quite interesting because Norway, Denmark, and Finland, I've had quite difficult to sell my artists to, except for one Norwegian artist, which I had, where I sold loads to Norway, of course, and nothing in Sweden. Just so, I don't know. It seems difficult, for me at least, to sell to the other Nordic.
Maybe how we treated our neighbor countries earlier.
I don't know, but to other countries, it's been very well. So, but not the Nordic territories for me personally. So.
I look at it as like you look at news. First of all, you need to have something that is relevant for the other markets. And I think that's one of the big problems when you try to export. That, like, you have a hit song working on the radio in your local country, or you have a band that you think is great, but compared to other territories, it might not be that interesting. Like flood somewhere in southern Italy. We don't get that on the news in Sweden. Why? Because it's not really relevant. But for the town in the southern Italy, it's really important. But if you have a bigger news, something that is more unique, the news will travel, and so will the band or music. So I say you need to really ask the hard questions if you have a band or music that is really relevant for other markets as well.
And it's not, and just to be clear here, you're talking about English lyrics, not that there is a language barrier. It's even hard with different or English lyrics. Cool. I'm thinking here, give us three good tips on if you're starting or thinking about starting your label. What would you say?
I think I could have a couple, and that's actually more or less the same that I run with the bands that I work with and help out. Number one, don't forget to have fun. It's incredible how many bands, and that goes for labels too, take things out all too seriously. And I think if you work with culture, if you don't have a playfulness, inside jokes running, then it's not going to work. So you need to base your record label on some kind of bad joke. I'm sure Stupido has a story. And I guess number two is kind of related, and that has to do with making a community. Well, of course, if you tell good jokes, then you're going to attract people. You need to do it together with somebody, and you have to branch out in some way. So I think if you're going to start a record label, you should also start some kind of club or a social scene where people can meet up and do something together, like folk kitchen or concerts, obviously. Things like that, because if you make a social movement where people meet together, then you're all of a sudden it's playful and powerful at the same time. That's a good start for a record label.
Yes, good. Any Danish advice?
I think you're right, but maybe from my perspective, again, maybe more mainstream, and if you want to compete or tease the majors on the pop scene, maybe get someone from the business world who's not in the music world to help you, maybe also fund you. I have a guy who's a partner in the company called Christian Bürge. He's been part of the Danish restaurant Noma, and so he's been kind of, when I met him, it was really interesting to have a financial guy who understood creativity and was as crazy as opening a restaurant as that, and also having succeeded with it and being able to see that this crazy person he put in charge of Noma actually made it onto the entire world. So that kind of perspective of and some of these people out there, there's also a lot of assholes. You should really take care of them, but there are some with new money and big money who are actually interested in creativity, and the advice I got from him has been really valuable. And I must say, we just a few of us just spoke about liquidity, being able to pay the wages and stuff like that. And there was a bit of advice I didn't listen to him, and I really regretted that a few years later. So he's been really important. So that would be my main advice.
I would like to add that in our office we say that we need somebody that nobody likes. Yeah. So if you have a business where it's all inside jokes, like I said, then it's not going to work. But you need that kind of grumpy guy with an outside view that can help with numbers or other things.
They call that guy a bookkeeper. So basically, my three advices would be: don't give immediately up your daily work. Secondly, I think that's good what you said about having fun and taking the live scene with you. I mean, if we would not have this live scene with us, with bookings and concerts and stuff, I don't think I would be bothered anymore with the label, or we'd be down and out, lying in the guts without any money. So basically, that's also important. And thirdly, I would say that get a dog or somebody for relaxation who doesn't give a fuck about indie music.
Yeah, well, I would say to start small. If you can't find an investor, then don't give up your day job. As you say, don't invest too much. Don't go and take loans or anything. Start small, and also network. Ask other people who have labels. Find who's the best print CD or digital distribution companies, and you can get tips and. Also do more than a label these days. Maybe you can do like booking or management or merchandise, whatever. You have to do several things. I think it's probably not enough to just have a label anymore. That's what I think.
I can add, I would say that you educate yourself how it works, because if you want to break the rules, you need to know the rules to break. Otherwise, you're probably gonna end up trying to break rules that is a fundamental for the industry to work, and that's not gonna work. And then do it for the right reason. I remember when I started signing bands. One person said to me that if you're able to sign them and no one else really want to sign the bands or the act, you should ask yourself why no one else is interested before you sign it, because you're gonna have more wrongs than right. So again, be careful and do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, do your homework. It's a good. Yeah, I'm agreeing there on also that maybe try to find you may have a lot of knowledge, so get to use that resource. I, for instance, did write for music magazines when there was music magazines around, and a lot of other stuff. So that I think is a good advice too. And we've done our 45 minutes, and if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. Otherwise, I think you can just come up to these guys and ask if you want to ask it more privately. Thank you very much.
Sure.